Hi, I'm Fran Stoddard, and welcome to another segment of the Vermont Community Foundation's Insight Hub, where we give you actionable insight to inform your giving. Today, I'm talking with Indra Acharya, Program Manager for the Vermont Coronavirus Economic Stimulus Equity Program. Indra, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm going to explain a little bit about what you do and what the program is, and then we'll get going with the conversation. So the 5 million State Economic Stimulus Equity Fund was created to fill the gap to provide $1,200 stimulus checks to Vermont residents who did not qualify for the federal checks due to their immigration status. The Vermont Community Foundation administered the fund with nonprofit partners after state officials and community advocates reached out for help in getting the program off the ground. The Vermont Community Foundation hired Acharya as a consultant to help run the program. Acharya earned his bachelor's degree in government from Georgetown University in 2018 and a master's in education policy and management from Harvard in 2020. But before that, he graduated from Winooski High School in 2014 and came to the United States as a Bhutanese refugee in 2012. So this is wonderful that you've been able to join us today. So explain what exactly were you hired to do? What did the program require and why was it needed?
Well, so first of all, the program was designed to fill that gap that was created in the federal funding when the federal government provided us with the first COVID stimulus. Only the people with good immigration status, I'm using good in air quote, or who were here with the legal status were eligible to get the funding. But COVID hit us hard. But the people that were left out and left behind and actually in greater challenge were those people who were already in the shadow because of their immigration status. They were still continuing to work, support our economy. But those folks didn't receive the stimulus simply because they didn't have the papers that we do. And as a result, because of the community-based advocacy, grassroots advocacy from organizations like Migrant Justice, the state of Vermont took it up on the state government to say, okay, we will be providing $1,200 for eligible adults, meaning those who did not receive the $1,200 that we all got because of their immigration status, and $500 for their children. And I was approached mid-December, and I was asked if I would be willing to help coordinate this program. Initially, my role was to provide support to the organizations that we had, because this program was organized in such a way that we had community partners working together with us. But as it evolved, all of us learned that, there were much more need, which we'll discuss later. Is like there were a lot of things that needed to be done, from providing direct support to, transmitting data on a bi-weekly basis, verifying the information that we had, doing outreach, and supporting all the community-based organizations.
Right, and you had lots of partners, which
we did
to find these people, right? And one of them was Migrant Justice, of course, because a lot of the recipients were migrant farm workers who lack documentation and might be hesitant to even apply. So how did the program, how did staff, how did they find these workers and figure out that they were entitled to these funds when, they might not, trust who's coming?
Well, so the first thing is the relationship of distrust, because the communities that we were working with, they traditionally do distrust the government, and that's because of what's gone throughout the history. They do not have the proper documentation. And there is the government saying, we'll give you free money in a sense. And the question that comes to mind is like, why are they giving it? Like, if they have my information, then they could deport me any day. So we started with that relationship of distrust. But the beauty of this program was that rather than government getting involved and having that access to data, we had community-based organizations that had the pre-existing relationship of trust with these communities. Migrant Justice, Association of Africans Living in Vermont, and CVOEO were our distribution partners, meaning these organizations had already provided support to the people, and that there was a relationship of trust. So I think, like, in terms of the design of the program, I can start with, our information was available in 9 different languages, including English. So USCRI helped us translate all the information, and not only the translated information, if people wanted to talk about it, if they had any question, they would call a hotline number that we created, which I can describe in a little bit. And we would connect, that individual to the interpreter, and people would get that information. And we passed the flyers not only through email and whatnot, but we literally printed flyers, left them at, grocery stores, laundromat, deli, like some of the store gas stations and whatnot throughout the state. So we were trying to be accessible that way. And even in terms of verifying the information that we have had, like, we are not working off of a database that pre-exists. We are working with the organizations that know this individual, and they would say, okay, yeah, no, this person is here, and we verify the information. Or we would make a phone call if needed. If there were some questions lingering and we needed to verify the information, we would go to their places in a friendly way and verify the information. Only then we would process the funding. So it was, in the beginning, we thought it would be more about people would register and we'll process the funding, but it ended up becoming a little more complex than what we had initially envisioned.
Right. So you really reached out to them. You
Yep.
had to work at finding them and making them feel comfortable. And so you found these gaps and unmet needs that might not have been caught if it wasn't for you going out and trying to give them the stimulus money.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it was not for all the organizations collectively working together and identifying the need. And one beautiful thing about this program, I think, from my perspective, is we had a strategy. The strategy was not having any fraudulent registration, verifying that all the information that we got were accurate, and recognizing that these people deserve the money. It is their money, and we have to do everything we can just so that they get the money that they need. That was our strategy in the beginning. But as it evolved, we were very open to meeting the needs that were out there. This was not about the organizations. It was rather about the people who deserve the money. They were the people that were left out and left behind, and this money was allocated for them. Our job was to give the money to the people, respecting their dignity and recognizing that these people deserve the money and they are equal part of our society. And when we had that philosophy, we were able to quickly, come up with new ideas, new, strategies. So
it's very complex. It's really important work that you did. But what advice might you have for funders who want to connect with this underserved population in the future? Because it is hard to make that connection, or to make sure you're getting the right people and getting them what they really need.
Well, I think the first thing is understanding that there is a need, and the needs are on multiple levels. So even if we are just focusing on providing one kind of support, we have to be able to be open to other ideas. If there is another need that emerges throughout the program, then we should be able to do it. And the second thing is not thinking of like all the activities that happens in a traditional way, and just recognizing that these are the individuals who are here, who are contributing to our diversity, our societal growth, economic growth, or in general, they're just other Vermonters who simply lack a piece of paper. And their needs are greater simply because we have not recognized their humanity. We have not recognized dignity of their presence in our community. And just being open-minded from that perspective, I think will allow us to respect these individuals and meet them where they are and support them based on their needs.
Absolutely. And I can imagine that your personal immigrant experience helped you in this work.
Well, I mean, entirely. I was born, raised a refugee. My mom was pregnant with me when she had to run away from the country because of ethnic cleansing. And I remember back in the refugee camp when my family had to meet our needs for food, clothes, and shelter, they had to leave the refugee camp where there were boundaries, the fencing. They had to leave the refugee camp and go make some money, and they were considered illegal. So for me, when a person is described as such, it's dehumanizing, and it pains me because I was one of them not too long ago. And even from the language perspective, like when we noticed that, some people had confusion, the first thing that came to my mind was like, my mom would also be confused if the question was written this way. So like if my mom gets confused, then other people can very easily get confused. So it was kind of like lived experience informed me in terms of reaching out to people. But again, it was not only me, because there were organizations, Migrant Justice, AALB, CVOEO, Capstone, CASP, all these organizations that have already been working with this group of people. They know the need, they know these people, they know what is needed.
And like you, they were able to cut through the fear, the confusion, the recognize the language barriers and really get through. Indra,
Yep.
thank you so much for
Yep.
for doing the job that you did so well and for helping explain it to us. Much more work needs to be done. And as we move into the future, we can learn from what you did, but still work at expanding on the outreach. Awesome. If you enjoyed this segment of Insight Hub, be sure to download the issue brief that's based on Indra's work. It has some great suggestions about what donors can do to help community efforts better connect with underserved populations. You can find that brief and many others at vermontcf.org/insighthub. And while you're there, you can also sign up for email alerts so you don't have to miss any future topics. Thank you so much again to Indra and the whole crew at the Vermont Community Foundation. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.